did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
For the consumer, is this going to lower cost of healthcare? And for the doctors, is it going to lower the cost of malpractice insurance?
That question has come up, believe me, and being somewhat of a skeptic, I'm gonna say it will probably reduce cost in some areas, but increase it possibly in others. Use the electronic health record example. Everybody said 15 years ago it's gonna save money, and I kept telling ONC, stop saying that, stop saying that. And so they spent $30 billion on electronic health records. How much money does that save us? I don't think anybody in this room knows. So I don't think we know. I can foresee some areas where I think it would save, but again, they don't even tell you in an article. You read this fascinating, great article. Only one out of maybe the last 75 articles said, I used 224 gigabytes of RAM and 4 GPUs. And I could look that up and figure out a cost, but no FTEs, no return on investment. Natural language processing with older methods was pretty much 12 to 18 months to create an NLP pipeline. That's incredibly long. How many FTEs or how much? So the point is, I'm not looking at it saving much money because I think it'll cost in this area and it might save over here.
Good question, thank you.
And just to piggyback sort of on his question, so I'm wondering if just the general public is uncomfortable with how it's going to affect their coverage with their health insurance. So how is anything being done to help people become more comfortable with the artificial intelligence explosion that is, bound to happen?
Indirectly, I mean, in other words, your insurance won't directly pay for it, but if it increases the overall price of doing business at a hospital, then it will. Now, I will say, if it becomes a platform as a service, is what they call it, and you're in Baptist, since you're Baptist is hooked up to Google's API for data, then they'll pay a service fee per hour, or it's not going to be per hour, but for the amount of usage, probably the size of the data set. And that's probably pretty cost effective. So being hooked up to your data warehouse may make it affordable. But my concern is, that's fine when you're talking about Mayo Clinic, Kaiser Permanente, Stanford. What about, smaller hospitals? How are they going to afford this technology? Plus, they don't have the expertise to maintain it. They don't have any data scientists. I mean, I do feel for smaller facilities that probably can't play this game.
So jump in there because I come from the business and marketing side of things, but I look at everything like how's it going to end up to the marketplace, how's it going to end up to us as a cluster of people or group of people. So you do have your Mayos and your clinics, and I think as things come out and we're associated with price and so forth, that they come out and then they're highly refined, and you're getting X amount of services and it's a premium that you're paying for this, and then somebody figures a way, let's make it cheaper and broader to the public. So therefore, it's the Walmart of healthcare via the mechanisms of artificial intelligence tied into all this. So it seems to start off a lot of good intent or a lot of good study, and then someone figures a better, faster, quicker way to get it to the public and then market it as such, and getting that consumption to be cheaper, and therefore then we create other problems for ourselves.
Likely. And I call it adverse unintended consequences, which we don't know about AI right now.
We don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. And again, wouldn't it be nice, though, for hospitals to compete on the basis of price? I'll never see it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it could be, though, an additive, just saying all our radiology images, be it ultrasound, whatever, are interpreted by AI as a second opinion. All our EKGs, all our echocardiograms, all our endoscopy, we haven't even talked about that yet, there's a second opinion in there. What % of polyps small polyps are missed on colonoscopy, 26%. And then on top of that, I mean, I'm learning every day with this stuff, is Barrett's esophagus is when you have dysplasia of lower esophagus, and you have to have frequent endoscopies and biopsies because it can become cancer. So they were able to, in a scope, do what they call an optical biopsy. They can do the tissue grading without a biopsy by looking at it, called endomicroscopy. Well, they could do that as colonoscopy too. So it's conceivably, and that's what they're talking about. There's a study where I think the surgical biopsy and the virtual biopsy were equal. So, you know, all that will be interesting, but again, I can't put a price tag on it. But it will be another check and balance on physicians who are not perfect.
It's very clear that there are challenges, both known and unknown for the technology. Lloyd, are you able to address some of the workforce and the staffing challenges?
Yes, Robin and I, we have a nonprofit called the Kakura Institute, and under that we have this thing called the Center for Innovation Workforce. And basically the idea is to give students and people in the workforce an opportunity to work with some of these tools that learn how to use some of these tools. So it doesn't matter if you're a computer scientist or a nurse, it doesn't really matter. There's ways you can actually use these tools to help understand your data. And so in the media, all the big companies talk about all this huge data stuff, but working for the government, we use artificial neural networks on small data sets. Because if you're doing experiments or you're trying to figure out something, you just want to understand what the data is telling you. And so you can use it in that way. You don't have to use it as something you want to deploy worldwide. You can use it to help you understand what's going on in your organization. So don't get lost in all the hype about these big data things. And there's, so the reason why this big data stuff keeps coming up is because the algorithms that you use to these publicly available algorithms, they're not fine-tuned. You have to have somebody and this auto ML stuff to pick these best algorithms. And so that's what intrigued me about the technology that I'm partnering with, because it doesn't use an algorithm, it uses an artificial neural network that trains the artificial neural network. So you don't have to worry about having all that expertise. And so my job was to package these type of technologies and make them so our engineers could use them. And so with the Center for Innovation Workforce, we actually, if you want to learn how to do something in data science, we'll introduce you to the tools in the workflow. If you want to learn some computer vision stuff, we'll introduce you to that kind of stuff. If you want to learn about robotics and healthcare, we'll introduce you to how that's being used. That's what the purpose of the Center for Innovation Workforce. And the key thing that everyone has to remember is if you can use a spreadsheet, you can use tools that have this stuff built into it. So you don't have to be this this expert or computer scientist like Christian over here. That's the message because that's really what the message is. It's not something you have to be afraid of. It's stuff that even college professors are afraid of. Think of it as a tool that you can actually use to do your job better and be more productive. That's been my attitude my whole career, is make stuff easy for people to use.
These tools are available. Many of them are open source and free. I can give you a long list of them, but I will remind you though of an important fact, and that is, let's say you do a classification. We're trying to predict diabetes, yes or no, right? You do a logistic regression, and it generates all these other statistics like odds, ratios, you name it. So you're looking under the hood, right? You do that you can't do that with an artificial neural network. It will show you accuracy, it gives you that kind of thing, but you honestly don't know. That's why, unfortunately, it's called the black box and other things, is that's the downside of these neural networks, is that you don't quite know what it's doing. You know the output, and you compare it with the input, and you can get some accuracy statistics. But it's not like some of the older formulas where it's a check and balance. And it allows you to do more calculations. So that's the downside, but to echo what Lloyd's saying though is, I don't think there's any reason to be totally afraid of it. And I think for that aspect, you don't have to be a computer scientist to just use a neural network. But to write your own algorithms, I got news for you, you do.
You do.
An artificial neural network is what it is. It's, you could call it an algorithm, but I don't necessarily, I'll just call it what it is. It's not an algorithm. And so it's something that understands something.
And it learns, I mean, again, it learns as you shove more data into it, it gets better and better. There's another one that just came out since 2014 called a generative adversarial network, which is fascinating. It's a dual network where part of it's creating fake stuff and part of it's going, not so fast, no, you don't have it right, you don't have it right. They can copy the Mona Lisa, for instance, and get it almost perfectly. So they can create twins, they can do all kinds of stuff and fake stuff. And in fact, I worry that the hackers will do that and disrupt networks. So they can mimic stuff really well with these GANs, they're called.
You're already doing it.
Oh yeah. So again, and so the number of algorithms and families of algorithms keeps expanding, and the concept. Thank goodness we have good computer scientists and AI people, but that's above most people's pay grade.
We are approaching the 1 hour mark, so I want to respect all of your schedules.